It's Tuesday, the 7th of September 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, the business news you need in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, then find more news and interviews in our longer daily podcast called Fear and Greed. In today's headlines, one of the country's biggest companies looks to introduce mandating COVID vaccinations as the Federal Treasurer takes a swipe at recalcitrants. Plus, job ads fall but still remain relatively high as the labour market maintains its strength. A military coup in Guinea hit some of Australia's big mining companies, and let me tell you about a company that's up 500% this year. Our lead story today, the Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg last night said Australians not getting vaccinated were slowing down the opportunity for the economy to reopen. And the boss of Telstra, one of the country's largest employers, said he was moving towards the mandating of vaccinations for his frontline staff. Mr. Frydenberg said Australians couldn't live in lockdowns forever. He said it was absolutely on the people who don't get vaccinated if they become more vulnerable to the impact of the virus. His comments came as Telstra gets set to introduce mandatory vaccinations for 8,300 frontline staff by the middle of November. Chief Executive Andy Penn said it was critical that staff get a jab, given how often technicians work in vulnerable communities or enter the home of customers. Telstra's retail workers will be included in the directive. At least vaccine supply is now less of an issue, according to the rollout czar, General JJ Fruin. The focus now is on having enough distribution points. The national vaccination rate is above 38%, with 63% of people having had one dose. The race isn't about one state achieving the 70 or 80% vaccination rates, but about all the states doing so. With government pressure now ramping up, vaccines being made available, and desperate businesses looking for a way out of this crisis, many companies are now likely to force staff to get vaccinations or at least encourage them forcefully. It looks like the best way out of this disaster. In overseas news, this year is on track to be the best ever for global mergers and acquisitions deals, with $4 trillion done so far. There were $500 billion of deals done last month, traditionally the quietest month of the year because of the northern summer, according to the Financial Times. Low interest rates, plenty of cash in private equity groups, and more confident boards have triggered the surge. Thailand is set to reopen popular tourist spots in an effort to help its battered economy. Bangkok and a number of the beach resorts will open from 1 October. And Marvel's first superhero movie with an Asian lead character, Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, made $90 million in ticket sales in the US over the Labor Day holiday weekend. That's the best release on record for the 3-day period. It offers hope to movie studios and cinema chains around the world. Locally, the ANZ job ad series fell 2.5% during August, but was still more than a quarter above its pre-pandemic level. The fall reflected the lockdowns in New South Wales and Victoria, but the number of ads remained surprisingly high. ANZ economists said it suggested that the jobs market would rebound once economies reopened. The employment market was the shining light of the economic recovery earlier in the year, with the unemployment rate falling to 4.6% in July, ahead of the lockdowns. That's expected to rise again, though the ANZ data suggests there's still strength in the labour market. A unit of Guinea's military has seized power and suspended the constitution, putting in jeopardy investments by Australian companies at Rio Tinto, Alcoa and Alumina Limited in the West African nation. All companies have bauxite interests in the country, and Rio has been undertaking early work at 2 iron ore leases in Simandou. Guinea has an abundance of natural resources, including around 1/4 of the world's bauxite reserves, which is used in many building materials. Guinea also has large reserves of diamonds, gold and alumina, and is trying to become a major player in the iron ore market. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian expects the number of COVID cases in her state to peak at around 2,000 per day sometime next week, despite the state recording 200 fewer cases yesterday compared to Sunday. 1,281 cases were announced yesterday and 5 deaths, taking the toll to 131. Victoria recorded 246 cases, with 80% under the age of 50. The Chinese-developed COVID vaccination Sinovac may eventually be among the most critical of the different jabs when it comes to the reopening of the Australian economy. Why? Because millions of Chinese, many of them potentially tourists and students to Australia, have been inoculated using the vaccine. So education and tourism providers are hoping the federal government recognises the vaccine to help open up movement between the two countries. And have you ever heard of Sept? Must admit I hadn't. The luxury fashion marketplace's share price has gone on a run and is up more than 500% this year after listing in December. Sept, that's C-E-T-T-I-R-E, is now the same size as Kogan.com, which I've spoken about plenty of times. Sept sells Gucci, Burberry, Fendi and Dolce & Gabbana, has 115,000 active customers, and for the last financial year had revenue of $125 million. Now, no idea how a man of my elegance, standing here this morning wearing a Fear and Greed t-shirt, missed this online shopping bonanza. That's the Fear and Greed business headlines for today. Make sure you hit follow so you get it every morning and search for our longer daily podcast called Fear and Greed. There you'll also find our daily interview. Today we're talking about the outlook for the local media industry. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter, or go to fearandgreed.com.au. I'll be back later with the afternoon market report. I'm Sean Aylmer. Have a great day.